Hi, we've had a number of clients call us up and say, "Hey, I'm just going to tell my landlord I can't pay the rent. If we have to pay the rent, that's just going to put us under." I thought that's a perfect example of what not to say to your landlord. And I would make a quick video coaching you through a little bit about the strategy and how to look at it from the landlord's perspective so that you can negotiate something that's favorable to both of you. From the landlord's perspective, it's very early in the process yet. They're not really feeling pain. In the US at the time that I'm making this, most of the tenants are probably still paying their rent. So if they help you out, this is going to be a credit decision. It's not humanitarian aid. They're not doing it as a charity case. They're doing it because it's in their best business interest. And you have to realize that if a landlord had, retail landlords right now, think about, if they had two tenants and one of them is the Apple store and one of them is a delicatessen, no matter what happens with this economic meltdown, the Apple store, Apple computer is still probably going to be around, but the deli, all bets are off. So they're going to look at that very differently, treat them very differently, and probably collect from them very differently. Whatever you do not threaten them with bankruptcy. If they think that you're going to go under, then rent is not enough to probably to keep you afloat. And so they would probably rather get it now than to give you free rent for 6 months and then have you go out then. So you need to treat them like they're your banker. Demonstrate that you have a plan to get through this blip. Be prepared. Give them in the last 2 years profit and loss statement, a balance sheet. Show them your cash flow plan, because they want to know that you're going to get through this and survive. So what are market conditions like? Well, they're very volatile, as you know. In London, only a third of the most recent retail rent was paid. And you can imagine that there are not going to be tens of thousands of landlords evicting those tenants and suing for that past rent. It's in both parties' incentive to work something out. In the US, we're a little further behind, but Cheesecake Factory recently defaulted on 200 plus stores. Imagine those mall owners do not want to board up those stores and maybe let them sit there for a couple of years. So if and when Cheesecake comes back, then they are very incentivized to try and work something out to keep them alive. So where does that leave landlords and tenants? Well, right now, there is a little bit of flux, but they're both in, just like we're all in this together as far as COVID-19 goes, landlords are tenants and tenants are in there together too. The tenants are what give the buildings value. The landlords have to make mortgage payments. So there has to be a balance there. How is the office and industrial lease markets going to be impacted? Well, they will be impacted. It's a little early to call. So the best advice from a tenant's perspective, my suggestion is to make short-term arrangements that will get you through this, and then long-term negotiations will happen after we can have a little more clarity on what the market's going to look like. Most landlords are going to face some issues with their lenders, so you may be at risk that even if you pay rent, that your landlord's going to go under because they're not collecting rent from other tenants, and some tenants will go away forever. So what's going to happen? Well, market rates will fall. Vacancy is going to increase. How much, we don't know. Most landlords are in denial. During the last crisis, 2007, the market tanked, but commercial rates didn't really bottom out until 2009, almost 18 months later. So it's going to take a little while because of the long-term nature of leases. It's in best interest of both parties to maintain the relationships if the tenant is going to stay in business. But those business users need to forecast how much space they're going to need, and the landlords need to be flexible. Very likely, whatever real estate somebody went into at the beginning of this is not going to be what they're going to need 6 months or a year from now, unfortunately. That's going to vary, obviously, by industry. Government intervention is likely, but it's undefined. So there is the CARES Act program, which allows you to use some monies towards rent. And a good compromise, I think, from a tenant's perspective, might be to offer to pay operating expense payments only for some period of months, because you do want services, and it's not right probably to expect the landlord to pay for elevator maintenance, air conditioning, your electricity, cleaning services if you're not paying your rent, regardless of what happens here. So that, I think, is a good first step, a compromise to get through this. So Avocat Group realizes lots of firms have been hurt by this, so we are completely waiving all of our hourly consulting fees, helping firms with no obligation, no strings attached. We will give you suggestions and advice. We will review your existing lease for clauses that may give you some protection or some different angles to think about, and we will make contact with your landlord to float some of these concepts by them. My name's Walt Batansky. I'm the CFO of Avocat Group. You can reach me at wb@avocatgroup.com, and I will put you in touch with the professionals in our firm who can help you through this. So we wish you the best. Good luck.